Hello and welcome to DCS How to Fly, the series where I teach you the basics of certain aircraft in DCS 1.5. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the weapons systems of the F15-C. I'm not going to be looking at the early warning systems of the aircraft or any countermeasures, as this video is about the air-to-air weaponry. Before we begin, I'm going to go over some of the controls we're going to need for today. Unlike most of the other episodes, we're not going to need to assign lots of keybinds. Instead, most of the functions that we're going to use are already mapped out, and I would recommend knowing them. You'll need to know what keys you have assigned to the 4 different targeting options. By default, they are 2, 3, 4 and 6, and you'll also need to know the key to activate the radar, which by default is I. Lastly, you need to know the target slew keys, up, down, left, right and lock. Also, if you haven't already assigned buttons to the weapon release, weapon fire, weapon change and cannon, I would recommend setting them up now. Before we get into the gameplay, we unfortunately need to look at the boring stuff, which is fairly important when it comes to a combat situation. We'll start by looking at the different targeting modes. 2 activates the Beyond Visual Range mode, which can be used with all types of missile, but is only recommended with longer range radar guided missiles, like the AIM-120. The use of this mode is often coupled with the radar system, activated with I, as it allows you to lock onto targets from range much greater than your missiles can reach. The range for this mode stretches from 10 nautical miles as a minimum to 160 nautical miles as a maximum. 3 and 4 both control the close range modes. 3 controls the vertical scan mode and allows the pilot to lock onto the aircraft while behind them. 4 controls the bore sight mode, which gives the pilot a cone of fire in front of the aircraft where a target can be locked and fired upon. Both modes work up to 10 nautical miles from the target. The final mode is the visual range mode, controlled with 6. This mode is mainly used by the AIM-9 and AIM-7 missiles, but when using the AIM-7s, this mode is called Flood. By pressing 6 multiple times, you can cycle between different cones of fire, caged and uncaged, allowing for a lock to be achieved with greater speed but slightly less accuracy. When using the cannon, it is important to note that by simply selecting the cannon and turning on the radar, you can lock onto the target using the GDS pipper to eliminate the target. More on this later. With that out of the way, let's move on to the AIM-9. The AIM-9 Sidewinder is a heat-seeking missile that comes in numerous different variants, but we're not going to bother with those variants. Sidewinders can be fired from all the different modes and can be used in all weather conditions due to the infrared seeker. The missile has a 2-step firing system. Once the target is locked, the low buzz tone will change to a higher pitched buzz tone. This, however, only indicates when the missiles are locked. The 2 orange lights on the canopy indicate when the missiles are within firing range and a good lock has been secured. To fire, simply press the weapon release key, not the weapon fire key, as this is designated for firing the cannon. Beyond visual range can be used with the AIM-9 as demonstrated, but it is very ineffective, so stick to the close range modes. Moving on to the AIM-7, the Sparrow is a semi-active radar missile that can be fired using all 4 modes once again. When using beyond visual range, you should use the radar targeting as the missile will not lock on its own. Using the close range modes is self-explanatory, with what is effectively a point and shoot mechanism. Using the visual range mode will engage the flood mode, indicated by the text on the bottom right of the HUD. This is also a point and shoot system. Just make sure you maintain the lock all the way to the target to prevent your missile from deviating. When firing, note that there is no lock tone. You instead have to look at the canopy lights and wait until they come on before firing. Finishing off the missiles, the AIM-120 AMRAAM is an active beyond visual range missile, giving it the long range capabilities that the other 2 missiles lack. Once again, the AIM-120 can be fired from all 4 modes, but it is advised that you only use beyond visual range, as it is what the missile is intended for. The lock indication is identical to the AIM-7, but if a lock is achieved at close range or in a combat situation, the missile is unlikely to hit its target due to the poor manoeuvrability of the missile. Finally, in the event that you run out of missiles or you are in a position where your missiles will not hit the target as you are too close, switch to your cannon with C and activate the radar with I. Place the pipper over the target and press the weapon fire key to open up. Fully loaded, you can carry about 1,000 rounds in the cannon, which is more than enough to deal with any target. Lastly, sorry this video took so long to make. There were lots of complications over on my end over the past few weeks, but if you want to stay updated on what's happening over on my side, be sure to follow me on Twitter and keep an eye out for update videos on the channel. Other than that, Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if it helped out in any way, why not drop a like or sub, and I'll see you soon. Ta-ra.